Morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting of the Community Growth and Economic Development Committee for Tuesday, February the 4th, 2025 to order. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please? Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest by members of committee? Hearing and seeing none. Item number 3 is the election of Community Growth and Economic Development Committee Vice Chair. Mr. Chair Henry? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move Councillor Pickles, please.
Okay. I have a seconder for Councillor Pickles, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Any others? Can I have a motion that nominations be closed? Moved by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Wu. All in favor? Opposed? You're willing to stand, Councillor Pickles? That's it. Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the minutes of our meeting of January 7, 2025. Moved by Councillor Pickles, seconded by Councillor Wu. Any comments, questions, or otherwise? No? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There are no statutory public meetings. Our first presentation is Lori Talling, Acting Manager, Agriculture and Rural Economic Development, and Allison DeVos, Economic Development Specialist, Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan Annual Report. Morning, ladies.
Hello and good morning, Chair and members of committee. I'm Lori Talling, as the Chair said, Acting Manager of Agriculture and Rural Economic Development, and I'm joined by Allison DeVos, our Agriculture Economic Development Specialist. Really pleased to be here today. Today we're going to present an annual report on the Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan, and more information can be found in the corresponding report in today's agenda package. Next slide. The Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan is a supporting plan of the Economic Development and Tourism Strategy and Action Plan Ready Set Future. It was endorsed by Council in 2022, and it's an action-focused document that guides the agriculture economic development activities of the Agriculture and Rural section within the Economic Development and Tourism Division.
So our plan identifies 10 goal areas, and today we will highlight some of the key activities that have been accomplished or are underway under each of these goal areas in collaboration with our partners.
Next slide. And then next slide. So goal 1 is retain and expand local food businesses. Actions to support this goal area included the annual Local Food Week campaign and social media posts to encourage shopping for locally grown produce and farm-to-fork dining during Ontario Agriculture Week. The Economic Development and Tourism Division also executed a very strong Gather at the Farm digital marketing campaign in collaboration with Durham Farm Fresh to promote agri-food and local farm visitation in October. Next slide.
Our second goal area is to streamline the regulation and approval process for agri-food businesses. We hosted a day of farm tours for our agriculture working group, which is a group of local and regional planners, economic developers, and building staff. And we toured several types of agriculture businesses, which was a great opportunity to talk and learn about agriculture as well as foster collaboration with our partners. We also are working on a project to enable agriculture-related and on-farm diversified uses in North Durham. And we'll cover this a bit more in our next slide, but it is providing opportunities to streamline approval services, as well as assist operators with overcoming barriers to business startup and expansion.
So goal 3, as Allison said, is enable and encourage agriculture-related and on-farm diversified uses. This is a collaborative project between the region's Community Growth and Economic Development Department and the townships of Scugog, Brock, and Uxbridge to really enable these types of uses. This project's underway currently, and the objective is to provide an economic environment in North Durham that supports the ongoing viability of the agri-food industry through updated land use policies and development approval processes that will allow these uses as of right while also balancing farmland protection. Last spring, we engaged with the planning consultants to undertake a study and provide policy and process recommendations. Agriculture community consultation was completed last summer, and the draft recommendations are currently being refined. Consultation on these draft recommendations will be taking place between February and March of this year, and the final recommendations will be presented back to this committee as well as to the Northern Area Municipal Committees of Council in the spring. Next slide.
Our fourth goal area is to advocate for infrastructure support. In 2024, we supported the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority by providing data to assist with their grain and fertilizer forecasting to support their expansions at the port. We also connected HOPA with our local industry contacts, including the chair of our Agriculture Advisory Committee, who hosted the general manager of the Oshawa Port on a tour of agriculture businesses to help foster some more connections and conversations with our agriculture community. We also participated in a cross-lake truck ferry study with McMaster University.
Right. Goal 5 is support businesses to increase agri-food processing and capacity. So a couple of things that we did last year included exploring the opportunity to attract an abattoir investment to the region, and that's something that will continue this year. Student career tours are also being organized for this spring, and they'll include a meat cutting culinary tour, which is a trade that's experiencing major labor shortages.
Our sixth goal area is to identify opportunities and solutions for workforce and labor shortages in the agri-food sector. Last spring, we hosted our second annual Precision Agriculture Field Day on a farm in Clarington, and it hosted over 100 high school students who got to experience firsthand precision agriculture demonstrations and see the variety of career opportunities that exist in this growing field. We also exhibited at the Clarington Student and Employer Summit to talk about the wide-ranging opportunities that exist in local agriculture careers. In addition to the meat cutting and culinary tour that Lori mentioned, we're also in the process of planning another tour for high school students to learn more about agriculture equipment and technician careers in the region.
So goal 7 is provide resources for aging and young farmers. In the latter part of last year, a Durham Agriculture Leadership Program was developed in partnership with Durham Farm Connections and the Durham Federation of Agriculture. The program started in January and it runs until April. It's a 4-part series covering important topics in agriculture leadership. And in February, we're also hosting a session entitled Finding Fairness in Farm Transition that will provide farmers with succession planning resources.
Our 8th goal area is to partner with agriculture organizations to deliver and expand agricultural literacy in the region. So we're proud to be ongoing partners and supporters of Durham Farm Connections, who really is a true leader in this area of agriculture education. And we've been proud to support their flagship program, which is their primary program in Open House, providing agriculture education opportunities across the region. And together with Durham Farm Connections, we partnered on the Apple Value Chain video series and marketing campaign that provided education around our local apple supply chains and food supply chains. We also assisted DAC, the Agriculture Advisory Committee, with their Agriculture 101 presentation development, resource preparation, and scheduling, which provided Agriculture 101 presentations to local municipal councils.
So goal 9 is enable a culture of innovation in agriculture and food. Last year, the Agri-Food Gateway pilot program provided small to medium-sized technology companies with agricultural training to help them adapt their technologies to fill needs and gaps in the agri-tech and agriculture sector. This was a partnership between National Research Council of Canada Industrial Research Assistance Program, known as NRC IRAP, Durham College, and our section in Economic Development and Tourism. 5 companies completed the training, and 3 of those companies are actively pursuing an AgriTech product offering. Continuation of this program is being explored for this year.
Our 10th goal area is to enhance urban agriculture. We're pleased to continue to be partners with Durham College and their Barrett Center for Sustainable Urban Agriculture, and we've been sitting on their Urban Agriculture Advisory Committee since its inception. Our team has collaborated with the Barrett Center and Durham Farm Fresh to host a culinary on-farm tour. And this hosted approximately 150 attendees who got to experience a culinary demonstration utilizing local food. This was also part of our Gather at the Farm campaign. We've also advised and reviewed the Durham Food System Report Card, which was developed by the Durham Food Policy Council, which had some really great urban agriculture suggestions and outcomes.
Successful implementation of the agri-food plan really relies on strong partnerships between the region and our agri-food partners. So between January and March, we're delivering this presentation to our partners across the region to show the region's ongoing commitment to growing the agri-food industry in Durham. Plans are underway to support, advance, or launch key initiatives that will continue to advance the goal areas of the plan. Areas of focus include supporting implementation of policy and process improvements to enable agriculture-related and on-farm diversified uses in North Durham, delivering the Agriculture Leadership Program, activities to address workforce and labor shortages in the agri-food industry, and activities to support increasing agri-food processing capacity.
We want to thank you all very much for the opportunity to present today, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, ladies. And the first question is from Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, thank you, ladies. Very enlightening. We have a massive economic sector devoted to agriculture. I think it's something like 33 to 36% of the economy in Durham. So all of these initiatives are terrific. My one question, I think, is simply where do Durham farmers have to go now to seek out an abattoir? I know we're trying to attract one here. What's the closest one, and what are the transportation challenges for farmers?
Through you to the chair, we do have one small provincially inspected abattoir in Scugog Township, which is Windcrest Meat Packers, but it doesn't have the capacity to service all of the farms in Durham and the surrounding area. So that abattoir services pork, lamb, and beef. Poultry, a lot of the farms are shipping to maple leaf plants outside of the region. And then as well in the sheep sector, the closest one would be in Kawartha and York regions. And then beef, we're seeing a lot further distances traveled and really long wait times. You could be booking up to 4, 5, 6 months in advance. So that really impacts how quickly we're able to service growing markets. So that's kind of what we're looking to address, but there's a lot of steps that are involved, especially on the regulatory side with food inspection and requirements. So it is a big undertaking, but one that would have huge economic impacts.
Good. Well, I have a brother-in-law in dairy and beef and another one in chicken, so I'm sure they'll be glad to hear of your initiative here. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Excellent, thank you very much. Our next is a delegation from Terry Ricker, is that how you say that name? About the Transportation Master Plan.
I have some handouts. Do I just leave them?
Sorry?
I have some handouts too, like booklets to
Yeah,
leave.
you leave them there and the clerk will pass them out afterwards.
Oh, okay,
We don't
thanks.
pass them out because we want to
problem.
pay attention to what you're going to say.
Yes.
So are you ready? You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, I'm Terry Recker. Good morning. And I'm with Action for Canada. I would like to make a land acknowledgement that I thank God and God alone for the ground that I'm standing on. Okay, so I would like to talk about a recent United Nations report that warned that raw materials used in the electric vehicles, the batteries, are highly concentrated in a small number of countries where environmental labor and safety regulations are weak or they're non-existent. Artisanal cobalt production in the Democratic Republic of the Congo now supplies 2/3 of the global output of the mineral. Many electric vehicles, batteries use cobalt, a key component in the cathodes of the lithium ion batteries that come from environmentally destructive mines controlled by Chinese companies in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So working in these mines is 40,000 to 100,000 Congolese children as young as 4 years old, that are breathing in this radioactive dust and being subject to dangerous cave-in hazards, working with their parents for less than $2 a day. Cave-ins, constant exposure to toxic radioactive water, dust, and dangerous air loaded with cobalt, lead, and uranium with other heavy metals breathed into their lungs day after day. Also, that our politicians can virtual signal that they are helping stop climate change, a wholly impossible objective. My question that I ask you, councillors, today is how do we know this isn't happening with the cobalt mining that eventually supplies the materials to build the batteries in the buses that Durham region is buying? The Durham region is using a huge amount of batteries in their electric buses, and Durham region will be borrowing up to $62 million from the feds for electric vehicles by 2037. So what else do I want to say? Sorry. Another question that I have for council is, can you tell me, or can you tell us what auditing was done for cobalt mining needed for batteries used in the Nova buses bought by the Durham region? If not, don't you think that you should have known about it and had confidence in the auditing procedure before you bought the buses? After all, the mines are owned and run by Chinese companies which have been notorious for human rights abuses. This is destructive. Again, disrupting human rights. I am a mother, a grandmother, and I do not want to pay this price. So I did hand out, and I see it up on the board there. The first slide is from a 2024 portfolio insight paper from JP Morgan, showing that only 29% of mining companies were able to clearly articulate of the mining companies, that were clearly to articulate the audit methodology used to ensure that child labor and human rights abuses were not occurring in the cobalt mines. I also there's another second slide, which would be, maybe you just have, there we go, okay, is an Action for Canada who quoted an article that according to Dr. Graham Conway, a principal engineer in the automotive division at Southwest Research Institute, battery electric vehicles are not environmentally friendly. Battery electric vehicles are commonly sold under the guise of being zero emissions, an assertion that is not true by any definition friendly. The electricity that powers these electric vehicles is generated by power plants, 64% of which burn fossil fuels in the US, fossil fuels that contribute to greenhouse gas emissions.
Your time is up, Ms. Riker.
Yep, last statement is Durham region ready to support this? Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
No questions?
Nope.
Thanks.
So there are no community growth correspondence or reports, economic development or correspondence. There are 3 reports. 25 EDT 3, Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan Annual Report. 25 EDT 4, 2024 Convergence Musical Arts and Cultural Festival. 25 EDT-5, Do It in Durham Entrepreneurship Week Business Advisory Center, Durham. Can I have a mover on all 3? Moved by Mayor Watton, seconder. Councillor Pickles, are there any pulls? Councillor Wu?
Just some questions to 9.2A, and that's report 2025 EDT-3.
Okay, we'll just wait, okay. Any other polls? Then on the remainder, all in favor? Opposed, that's carry. On 25 EDT 3, Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan Annual Report, need to push your button again there, Councillor Wu. Councillor Wu, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair, and great report presentation. Now, retain and expand local food businesses, and the reason why I bring that one up, encourage shopping for locally grown produce. And I'm going to make reference to what's going on in the world now with this tariffs, and if I want to use the term trade wars. And are we ready, and I would imagine through economic development, promoting this buy local, shop local? And
So just to interrupt you for a minute, Councillor Wu, I've asked the Director of Economic Development to give us an update on our position on the tariffs. If that would answer your question, I'm going to do it under other business, if that's okay with you, unless you have a specific question about this report.
oh, no, well, I'll go on and other question, but yes,
ahead.
I can certainly wait
Yeah.
for the other business. Streamlining regulations, and we did have a presentation, my first meeting here, and from Zach Cahoon, cutting red tape. And one that was brought up was the migrant workers, the housing issue, but other issues, cutting red tape so that we can move forward. Because I would imagine with the agriculture industry, I'm just looking at, and some of it is at the lower tier. If somebody wants to build a barn or lot severances, where somebody buys a farm and they have excess building that comes with it. Are we doing enough to cut the red tape so that farmers or those in the agriculture industry can move ahead quickly?
Yeah, so I think that's more so on the planning zoning side of things. Commissioner, do you want to answer that, or does the director?
Well, I'll start and then see if either Lori or Simon have a couple of comments on that. Now, Lori and Allison did touch on the work that is being done with the area municipalities for on-farm diversified uses, looking at zoning, trying to sort of commonize those. The other, to your last point of your question, so we have the Durham Agriculture Advisory Committee that meets every month and talks through these types of issues. So I think they are always being looked at, ways how to streamline, whether it be the things like you're talking about, barns and severances and things like that. So I'd say there's ongoing dialogue to try and get at all these things.
And like you said earlier, a lot of that is the local municipalities. In Oshawa, we just had some amendments that we're doing on our official plan and our bylaws that are related to farm businesses and secondary structures and things like that. That's at Oshawa Council and through our Planning and Economic Development Committee. So in your community, it would be the same, I would assume, because it's more so a zoning and a lower tier responsibility, to assist with those.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate that. I think we're the only municipality with the Agriculture Advisory Committee of Clarington. But there's one, and it's through you, Chair, to the Commissioner. Can you explain enabling agriculture-related and on-farm diversified uses as of right, and that is under Goal 3?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. And that's what I touched on at the beginning, and remembering that Allison and Lori had touched on that. So maybe if I can ask Lori or Allison just to elaborate on the work that's been going on. It must be a lot of work has been done so far, close to being wrapped up.
Through you, Chair. Yes, there's been a significant amount of work being done with the 3 North Durham townships, together with a planning consultant, WSP Canada, and our whole Community Growth and Economic Development Department to review the policies and have them make some recommendations to improve official plan policies and zoning bylaws to better enable these uses, to do some of that cutting of red tape that you had mentioned earlier, Councillor. That project has been ongoing, and we're hoping that at the end we'll also be able to share that information and the improvements with other local area municipalities in the region. So although the focus is on the north initially, we will be able to share some of what we're doing with communities like Clarington as well. And it is intended to improve process and also for economic development to play maybe a bigger role in some early consultation with businesses that are interested in expanding on farms.
Okay, that's great. And through the chair, thank you very much again, Lori and Allison, for your presentation and your response to the commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on or comments on that report? Then on the recommendation to receive for information, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Advisory committees, we have one report, one resolution from Durham Environmental Climate Advisory Committee, support the need for provincial action on salt pollution from road salt. Councillor Wu, you have a motion on that? Hold on, there you go.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And I think probably something like this, good resolution, but if we could, a motion to refer it to the Works Department.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Pickles, referring it to Works. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There are no confidential matters. Under other business, just so you know, I've asked the commissioner, first off, to give us an update. We all heard the announcements a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, on the Pickering Airport. And I've asked him to give us a quick update on what's happening with those lands and where the federal government is proposing from what we can do. So, Commissioner, please.
All right, thank you, Chair Chapman. I've got a couple of maps that Roger's going to put up. So to start, on January the 27th, last Monday, the Federal Minister of Transport and International Trade announced that the federally owned lands in Pickering will not be used for an airport. So these lands, as we know, were expropriated over 50 years ago in 1972, so it's been 50-something years of uncertainty, if you will. On this map, you'll see on the left-hand side, oh, sorry, if you could go to the other one. Yeah, there we are. The, say the left-hand side of the screen, about the middle, there's a, it's hard to see on my screen, but it's a red circle, and it's a picture of an airplane, and that depicts future airport. So for at least since 1993 or so, the region has always shown in its official plan these lands for a future airport. So those lands that are shaded in gray are the federally owned lands, as well as that white strip of land along the south, thank you, and then up along Brock Road in that north-south direction on the other easterly side. So in total, the federally owned lands are about 8,700 acres or 3,500 hectares. Now, just to go back to this white area, we've called that Special Study Area 1, as it was called in the regional official plan. Within the federally owned lands, that's about 1,800 acres, and those lands have long been earmarked for airport-related employment uses. That was the purpose of Special Study Area 1. Also on this map, then in the green line you see through the gray area in the north-south direction and then the east-west, that is the Greenbelt line. So about 3,700 acres of the 8,700 acre total site is within the Greenbelt. So call it more than a third, less than half. And then at the very northerly tip of the gray area, those lands would be within the Oak Ridges Moraine. Below the white area is Highway 407, and in the east-west direction along 407 is Pickering's Innovation Corridor, where we're starting to see some employment development. And then immediately south of that are the Seton lands, and then over to the east where you see that pink circle, that's what we refer to as the Northeast Pickering lands. So next map, please. So last week's announcement stated that the federal government intends to transfer high conservation value lands to Parks Canada, and of course in turn to be added to the Rouge National Urban Park. Now the Rouge National Urban Park, that's what you see in that, I'll call it coral pinkish shade. That park right now is in the neighborhood of 19,500 acres. The lands hatched in green are the region's natural heritage system, and as you can see, that sits within that greenbelt portion I talked to you about. And then the white portion on this map is essentially being used for cultivation for agricultural purposes. And then again, the hatched area in red is that special study area 1, that is call it the future employment uses. So the federal announcement also stated that a formal consultation process will be launched on the future of these lands, but at this point, Chair, we don't really know, have any further details on that. So we're unclear as to whether this further consultation is going to be with respect to the lands going into the park or the remaining lands not going into the park. We're not exactly sure. So there may be one process, maybe two. In either case, we will certainly monitor everything. We'll make sure that we are on the proper consultation list so that we are able to attend as well, and we can provide updates to committee as these details become available.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions? Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Chair. Could you put that last map back up on the screen? Thank you. So we've heard about the green hatched areas as being either Rouge Park or part of the green, and the red being part of the green belt. Is that?
No, the red hatched?
Yeah.
That's the special study area 1, call it future employment area.
Bingo. Okay. What's the white area central to the northwest part were divested? That's about 8,000 acres. They were divested a few years ago,
Right.
back to the Rouge system. What's the white area in the middle?
That would be white belt lands now, not in the green belt. And they're shown this way because they're substantially in agricultural use. They're being cultivated right now.
Okay, understood.
Farm
I know,
fields
I
mostly.
know exactly what white belt is.
Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yep.
Councillor Pickles?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess this is to Brian. Just for clarification, some of those lands are presently under federal airport zoning regulations, a legislative status. Did the government indicate how or when they were going to change that status? And does it require an act of parliament, or is it subject to a ministerial regulation, or we're not sure of any of those things?
Right.
Thank
That
you.
wasn't part of the announcement, through you, Mr. Chair. Wasn't part of the announcement, and I presume so, but I don't know. But those questions could be asked during this upcoming consultation process.
That's it? Okay. So I've also asked our Director of Economic Development, Mr. Gill, about the tariffs, to give us some update on tariffs. Now, we know if everyone watched the news yesterday, we know they've been paused, but the action that we're probably going to take from the region is not going to stop because we don't know what's going to happen in 30 days. So Director Gill, please.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Chair. So I'm positive everyone has a fairly high level of familiarity, but perhaps for those listening on the live stream, I'll just provide a quick update. that the US had planned but has now paused for 30 days a 25% blanket import tariff on all Canadian goods coming into the country, except for oil and gas, which would be subject to a 10% tariff. The pause was after a call between the President and the Prime Minister, where the Prime Minister made certain commitments about border security. Canada had been prepared to respond with a 25% tariff on a large basket of goods right away, followed by an even larger basket 3 weeks from now. And the province had also planned certain measures like banning products in the LCBO and certain procurement changes. Those have also all been paused, pending a decision by the US on what will happen 30 days from now. I'll speak quickly about what the local economic impacts are and could be if this tariff were to be implemented 30 days from now. It would have broad GDP and employment impacts across all of Canada. And the severity of those impacts would likely depend on the duration of the tariffs, whether they were in force for a day, a week, a month, a year, or longer. In Durham region, there are over 450 businesses that, through the business count, reported exporting last year. And those businesses cumulatively employ a little over 22,000 people in the region, which represents about 10% of our total jobs in the region. And it stands to be determined how much of those impacts will affect those businesses and how much those impacts will affect those employees. Some of the most immediately affected sectors in the region would likely include home building, the automotive industry, any primary goods producers like steel and aluminum, certain agricultural producers like grains and fruit producers that are shipped, and other packaging or primary materials. So this is really a trade war. Goods that are traded with the US would be subject to the impact. Important to note that certain services or soft goods, things that don't exist in physical form, are not taxed on the way across the border. So I'll speak quickly about what we are doing, as the chair mentioned. The DEDP, which is the Durham Economic Development Partnership, had an emergency meeting yesterday afternoon with all of the chambers and boards in the region and some other members, where we discussed certain immediate response activities that we would want to take. Firstly, we've shared the names and potentially affected businesses with the province's representative in Washington. It was requested because it could be valuable for them to help with their trade negotiations and potentially to identify businesses that could be our advocates in the United States. We shared the list of potentially affected businesses with all of the economic development teams at the area municipalities, and those teams are now reaching out to large employers around the region to determine what, if any, impacts they're currently experiencing or expect to experience in the event the tariffs are applied. Together with the chambers and boards and the province, we're planning a centralized landing page with information and resources for businesses. It's a pretty rapidly changing landscape with the news potentially changing every couple hours in some cases. So we want to make sure businesses have access to the most relevant and important information and news. We're continuing to collect feedback from businesses as to what they expect or what they're currently experiencing in terms of impacts. And we're working hard to develop a trade diversification initiative. And what I mean by that is, right now, over 80% of our trade in Ontario is with the United States. There's obviously an imperative that we need to start working to diversify that. And so an initiative is underway to scope out what that looks like and put some plans in place to help our local businesses to access the resources they need to move into other international markets with their products. I'll quickly speak to some other impacts, because even though the tariffs have been paused for 30 days, there have been some immediate and potentially fairly important impacts already. So some businesses across Canada have experienced a slowing volume of orders from buyers in the United States who are obviously due to anticipation of the tariffs, but also confusion over what that might mean. Some companies have invested already in some mitigation activities, those might have tax impacts for them. The market and the currency is responding. And importantly, some producers in Canada, we understand, are already starting to plan ahead for a future scenario where tariffs are implemented, and that might mean shifting some production from Canada to the United States, and that could have impacts on employment. It's also had a chilling effect on investment attraction. So, speaking frankly, if you were an international business looking to enter the North American market right now, you would not be making a decision right now in this environment. You would be waiting to see what happens, and you would be waiting to see what the effects of trade might be on your strategy to enter Canada or the US or neither. Despite some of those negative impacts, there are some silver linings, and we're looking to potentially capitalize and exploit those. Canadians are, of course, you're noticing, much more aware of their consumer choices. They're looking to favor goods that are not produced in America, and that potentially improves the outlook for certain Canadian goods like Durham producers of beer and wine and spirits, and Durham producers of food and local products for consumption. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also highlighted a very strong need and imperative for us to diversify to other international markets. So we have immediately started working together with our area municipal partners to identify how we could use our presence at Hanover Messe this year as an opportunity to take Durham businesses that are looking to expand their international horizons and bring them and their products to the attention of international buyers in the European Union. And in fact, Canada and the European Union enjoy a tariff-free trading relationship through CETA. So this would be a very, very great opportunity to capitalize on. So in summary, we're working very closely with our economic development partners at the area municipalities, at our chambers and board partners, and with senior levels of government to identify the best ways for us to respond quickly and meaningfully to businesses that are already currently impacted and that may also be further impacted if the tariffs are implemented. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? Seeing none? Great, thank you. So our next meeting is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, but I want to give you a heads up for your calendar. April 1st meeting will be canceled. It's not an April Fool's joke. It will be canceled. The clerk will send out a notification, and the reason being is a lot of our staff are going to be at that international trade conference overseas, and the commissioner is going to try and make sure that March and May's agendas fulfill that there won't be any time-sensitive things. We very seldom have time-sensitive things in our committee anyway. So just so you can know for your calendar, so that in case something happens April 1st, we will not have a Community Growth and Economic Development Committee meeting, and the clerk will send out an official notice so you can cancel it, right? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Pickles. All in favor? Let's pass. Thank you very much.